was just a dream, just a moment ago. I was up so high, looking down at the sky. Don't let me fall. I was shooting for stars.
In the 50th anniversary of the Auckland Badminton Hall, we are interviewing Jeff Robson, MBE, the first of our legend interviews, looking back on people who have made a big impact in badminton at Auckland and New Zealand. Thank you, Jeff, for agreeing to this. Jeff, you were in Thomas Cup captain in badminton and Davis Cup captain in tennis for New Zealand, and were 5th, 8th seed at the All Englands and are unofficially ranked 6th in the world in singles and badminton. What made you proud of your New Zealand teammates, and what did you expect from them as a captain?
Well, the team that I was in both tennis and badminton, they were all, I found them great people. They tried hard in their matches, and especially they were proud to do well for New Zealand. The first time we won the White Trophy against Australia in badminton, everyone was obviously very happy about it, but it was all low-key. They didn't go overboard, and they were just pleased to have done well for New Zealand. And in Davis Cup we reached the semi-finals of the World Group, which is in the last 4 teams. And again, the players were pleased to do well themselves, but they were very pleased that they had done well for New Zealand, and they were conscious of the effect that it would have back home, that people would follow them and be pretty pleased with their efforts.
And do you get a sort of momentum building in a team where you...
Oh yes, yes. As you progress, especially in Davis Cup, from match to match, I mean, obviously the players sort of get more and more into it, but yes, there's momentum there all the time now.
When you were playing in badminton, what was your style of play?
I started off as a pretty straightforward sort of player. I just did a lot of clearing and smashing and the odd drop. And then I lost to an Australian #1, Alan McCabe, who played a very deceptive game, and it just opened a different slant on the game completely to me with this deception, where he could wrong foot people, keep them off balance so they could never even get a really good smash in, because they were never set completely to do it. And so for the next 2 years I changed the style of my play, practiced deception, and then I became reasonably deceptive in the style of play I did promote. And I found out that same thing, that you could keep people off balance, keep them guessing, and they never really, even against a very strong smasher, they never really, or very seldom, got set to deliver sort of the full strength, because they were all slightly off balance, and they might even make an error trying. So I became a defensive and deceptive player. I developed a good defence, but I'd say yes, I was more deceptive than a hard hitter.
And when you're trying to change a game like that, when you're trying to change any part of your game, is it important to practice it first and then just play as you instinctively want to in a match, or do you have to try and change it?
No, I kept trying to play deceptively. Once I started to get a little mastery of it, because it was quite difficult to learn, I kept using it in a match.
When you were preparing for a match, there's a lot of talk about visualisation nowadays and that sort of thing. Did you do anything particular to prepare for a game?
Yes, perhaps we didn't call it visualisation in those days, but I did think ahead, and in my mind I would always think, now how am I going to play this person or these people in doubles? But I suppose it was a type of visualisation, and then with that comes concentration and sticking to what you thought you should do.
And was fitness a big part of it?
Yes, yeah. Yes. I used to do quite a bit of training, but nothing compared to what they do these days. I did a bit of running, skipping, a few exercises, but to say, I thought I was doing a reasonable amount, but say compared to today's players it was virtually nothing.
You've been in a privileged position in the sense that you were very, very talented at tennis and badminton. How did the two sports compare fitness-wise?
They were much the same. With badminton, you recovered quickly from, you might have a long match, but you bounce back fairly quickly. With tennis, if you had a long 4 or 5 setter, you could be tired for several hours after it, and even the next day it might have some effect on you. But with badminton, you might have a long, hard match where you worked pretty hard, but a few hours later you would recover quite well.
Some people only know badminton through videos of outside, and they don't realise the intensity of the sport. Did you find it a fast, intense sport, or how would you explain the game to someone who didn't know what it was?
Yes, a lot of people don't realise how strenuous badminton is, or how fast it is either. They keep sort of thinking, oh, it's a game you play on the beach. Well, believe me, championship or international badminton is nothing like that at all. And it's very fast. You must have stamina. You have to have very good court coverage, so your reactions have to be good. And for defence, your reactions have to be razor sharp. We see some of the top players in the world these days, their defence is absolutely magnificent. People just hurling 100-mile-an-hour smashes at them, and they somehow or other get them back, but they also control them. It's quite a strenuous game, badminton. You can, at the end of it, you can feel absolutely you've had enough, but as I said before, you bounce back quickly.
And when you were playing, you had to travel a long time to get to England and Europe to play. Once you were there, how long did it take to get used to the pace, the different pace overseas?
Yes, you do have to get used to the pace. I think this is with all sports, that when we're isolated here in New Zealand and you think you've trained and you're up to a reasonable speed and good form, but then you play against international people and you find that they play a faster game. And as I say, it happens in most sports. Everything's faster, and it does take you quite a while. And with badminton and tennis, it certainly takes a while. But then it's a gradual thing, though. You don't just sort of suddenly develop speed. You just sort of work at it and gradually get used to the pace, and you're able to control it and be accustomed to it. Then, of course, when you come back here to New Zealand, you suddenly find everything's a lot easier because it's so much slower. But you lose it again very quickly if you're not keeping up to sort of fairly fast play.
Sometimes young players nowadays go over for maybe 2 or 3 weeks in Europe. Is that maybe
it's not long enough to progress? It takes longer than that to come up to speed. If you've done it before, you can come up sort of reasonably quickly, but you really don't obtain and be comfortable at playing the speed. It takes longer than that.
What recommended time would it be? Would you recommend a young player?
Oh, I'd say 6 to 8 weeks, something like that, to really get used to speed. Because it's not just getting used to it, you've got to feel comfortable that you can play your game at that speed, and not, there's a tendency to make a lot of errors because you're trying to keep up with speed. You've got to be comfortable with the speed, and so that you don't make errors.
You can play your game.
Yes, play your game but at an accelerated speed.
That's fantastic. Is there anything that, when you think back, and the people you've met, the players you've played with, that stand out for you, that particularly have a fond memory of, whether you played with them or against them, or New Zealand players that you've seen?
Well, we've had a few exciting matches at different times. We had one test against Australia in badminton in Ballarat, where Heather, my wife, and I had to play the last match of a test, and we had to win it and not lose more than, I think, 12 points, and not lose one set. And that was fairly nerve-wracking going on, knowing that you couldn't make mistakes. And I think the first 2 or 3 points. We lost 2 or 3 points quickly, which sort of sets you back a bit, and you think, well, I've only got a handful left. Anyway, we managed to come through it. We didn't lose too many more points, and we came through it, and New Zealand won the test. But that was pretty exciting.
Fantastic. And but big celebrations afterwards? Or?
Yeah. Oh, a bit of celebration, yes. One of our team members couldn't watch till he just went into the dressing room, and he popped his head out of the dressing room occasionally just to catch the score, and then go back inside and hide away because he couldn't stand the tension.
And for you on court, when you're in those moments...
Well, it's not so bad when you're playing. It's harder for the people watching, I think.
And do you find that you're in the moment a little bit, or are you thinking ahead a little bit? What's happening?
Yes, you're thinking ahead, yes.
Yeah. But not too worried about the outcome necessarily, more focused on...
No, you're focusing on the rally that you're playing, and the rally that might be coming up next. Yeah.
Fantastic. You've been in a pretty unique position in that you've had a very prestigious, not only playing career, but administrative career, a president of both Auckland Badminton and Badminton New Zealand, former IBF vice president, so that you have a really good view of all aspects of the game. What fundamentals do you think we need to do in New Zealand to produce and develop top players? Well,
I think you have to start with the young players to develop a broad base. I think that's with any sport. You have to have a base to start with, and but then as they progress and get better, because we're so isolated, you have to get overseas and have international experience. Again, the speed factor comes in, but just styles of play that you're going to play against. It changes your own game too. So you have to develop youngsters in the basics of the game, and as many as you can, so the base is broad, and then give them the chance to play against international play, and not just for 2 or 3 weeks as you mentioned before. It's got to be longer than that.
What do you think of the current state of the sport in New Zealand?
Well, I think we're going through a bit of a trough at the moment. All sports have their ups and downs, and we've lost a lot of good players from the last few years. So we're in the building phase now, but we've got some good youngsters coming on. But again, they've got to be given the chance to develop.
Yes. Do you believe that that it's a good philosophy to aim high when we're looking at getting like...
Oh yes, yeah. Aim high, all right, yes. Just being good isn't good enough. You've got to be the best or better than you think you are. Yeah, aim high certainly.
Awesome.
But then you have to work for that.
Yes, there's no shortcuts, is there?
Yes, there's no shortcut. It's hard work and constant work. But if you set your mind to it, yes, you can succeed.
And is it important also that we develop the administration excellence as well as the on-court excellence?
Oh yes, yes. Administration has to be behind developing the sport and giving the players the opportunity to improve. And badminton has had some very good administrators over the years, and so that part is very important.
Is there any people that perhaps people don't know about too well, about especially new people who are new to the sport? Are there any administrators that stand out to you? Obviously you're one, but others that have come through that really stand out?
Oh, well, there's one from Wellington who was the secretary of New Zealand Badminton for a long time, and he was a player himself, a sort of a good A-grade player, so he knew the sport, George Vincent, and he had a very good idea of where we were heading to get better in badminton. So he did a lot for the game. He was a paid secretary, but he had badminton at heart, and he knew what he wanted to get out of it, and he did a good job.
And I guess as all administrators in sport generally know, the hours are much more than a 40-hour week.
Yes, they're long hours, and not regular hours either.
No. You and Heather were part of the initial driving force with other people behind the hall, which is the 50th anniversary of 99 Gillies Ave, the Auckland Badminton Hall now.
Yes.
What was it like then, getting the whole thing started?
It was hard work, as any project's hard work, but we felt it, a group of us felt it was necessary that we had our own hall. And we looked around for some years before looking for a good site. And anyway, eventually we settled on Gillies Avenue after we did own a site in Newmarket behind the railway station, but it really wasn't very suitable. Then we found Gillies Avenue, and then it was even harder work from then on. And years of work went on, but we ended up with a marvellous facility.
How many years roughly would it?
Well, the first 4 courts were built in 1960, and then 2 more courts were added in 1964. That gave us 6 courts, but the plan was always to have 12. So then we added another 3 courts in 1970, and then the final, that was courts sort of 4, 5 and 6 now. And then the front part of the hall with a lounge and the other 3 courts were added in 1971. So it took a long time to get it, but it was well worth it in the end. And of course it's become a very valuable asset too. But it's very well used, and we took a lot of care in designing it for badminton players. And the colour of the background, we put, it might just look a blue-green background, but a lot of thought and or experiment went into that. And we didn't want too dark. Obviously a dark colour lets the shuttles stand out well, and you get good sighting. But if it's too dark, it's a bit depressing.
Yes.
And so anyway, we ended up with the colour we had, and I was always pleased that visiting players would come into the hall, international players, and say, "Oh, this is great playing conditions. I feel very comfortable in this hall."
It is a trade of the hall only, but as a kid playing, and it always felt like a home away from home type feeling as well. It's an easy place to play.
Yes, yeah. I can remember one Canadian coach at Commonwealth Games came into the hall, and the first sort of few hours he was there, he came up to me and he said, "This is a great hall." He said, "I feel very comfortable. It's like I've played here for years."
Yeah, fantastic. How does it make you feel when you see all the people that have had the benefit of that, of the hall? How does it make you feel knowing that you were part of the people that created it?
You don't feel anything necessary, especially you're just pleased that the hall's there and helping people to get into the game. It's great to go up and see full of school children in the afternoon. It's a great sight, and that's good for the game.
Actually, as we speak, there's a junior rugby club going on there right now. And how many people were there involved in that initial group?
Oh, there were lots. Just in the initial planning group, there was probably about 10 or 12, I suppose. Wow. Aubrey Webster was the main driving force. He was a club member of ours at Eden Club, and a very successful businessman, very keen badminton player. In fact, he and his wife introduced Heather to badminton. Wow. Heather was a junior tennis player at West End Tennis Club, and they played badminton too, so they introduced Heather into badminton, and they even took her around a few tournaments, and they started her off. So he was sort of the main driving force, and he had a lot of good people around him. Reg Skeen, who was president for a long time, and there were a lot of other members, myself and Heather, and a lot of others from the different clubs. But you needed a good group behind to push everything through, because there were problems and money problems, but anyway, we got there, which was good. Fantastic,
and great to see such a tribute to badminton still there, and hopefully still going to be developed in the future as well.
Yes, I gather they need more courts now.
Yes. Your son Graham also played for New Zealand and was national coach during a golden era recently with Daniel Shirley, Ron Robson, Tammy Jenkins, a number of top players. Now does some really great work with the Academy of Sport. As a parent with a talented young player, or any player, I guess, is it hard, and what advice would you give for parents with young players out there playing sport?
Be light on the advice, because obviously parents want their children to do well, but it's very easy to become fairly heavy to push children, and even, well, you see it in other sports too, on sidelines at sports, parents yelling out, and just, I think, going a little bit overboard. It's better to step back a bit if you can. It's hard to do because you're wanting success even at a young age. Yes. But I think it's better to just stay back in the background a bit. Have your little say from time to time, but don't overdo it. And obviously encourage as much as you can.
Do you think that some parents perhaps underestimate the power that they have, in the sense that their words may have quite a big impact on the child compared to, say, even a coach or someone else?
Yes, that's possible. That's what they tell them. They may take more notice of the parent than the coach, which probably isn't a good thing. If there is a coach there, the parent should let the coach do the coaching.
Yeah. That's fantastic. With the award ceremony, you've had a number of awards. I mean, these are just some of them. The MBE Halberg Trust Lifetime Achievement Award to yourself and Heather. More recently, the Herbert Schuler Trophy for services to badminton from the World Badminton World Federation. What's your reaction when someone rings you up and says, "Hi, you've just been nominated, or you've just been going to be presented with an award"? What's the first thing that comes to mind?
Well, this last one of the Herbert Schuler Award was a surprise, first of all, because I've been away from badminton, international badminton, for 2 or 3 years, but I've still kept in touch with them. I am a life vice president, which is a life member really of international badminton, and I was a bit surprised that I was nominated for this award. But then, naturally, I'm very pleased too, because it is quite a prestigious award. There are some of the people that have been awarded it before have been quite outstanding as administrators or players. We've had a number of world champions that have been awarded it, and a number of quite outstanding administrators. So naturally, I'm very pleased just to be associated with a group like that.
And it's a very proud moment for, I think, the badminton community as well. I mean, I think they're very proud of you, and also it's great to see the sport, I guess, being, I guess, the history being recognised, and the people that have contributed to such a proud history, which we have. And so I guess part of the reason for doing these videos as well is to let people know about that history. When you were at the award, what was it like? Was it a massive, great hall? Was there lots of people that you...
It followed the annual meeting in Kuala Lumpur, so there were delegates from all over the world there, and then we had a luncheon next door. Again, it was a large room because it was a very large hotel, and there were, I think about 140 delegates there from all over the world, and they had presented these awards just before the luncheon, which again was a nice sense of timing too.
And did you see people that you hadn't seen for a while?
Yes, I saw quite a number of that I worked with on international badminton, and some players that I had seen for over the years. I was an international referee for a number of years, so I knew all the top players quite well, and a lot of them were there as coaches, and some have been coaches for many years too. So it was quite exciting again to see people from the past, and some are very close friends too.
I guess that's something that badminton's really, I guess a lot of sports are, that strong sense of community and almost family, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, they're all a great group. The international badminton players especially are all very friendly, and they don't sort of push themselves as being champions or anything. They're very friendly people and very nice people too. So it's great to see them again.
That's fantastic. Just finally, when you look back on the history of the sport and then look forward to the future, what is your greatest wish for the sport?
to progress, obviously. And again, it takes money, and it takes effort, and it takes time. You can't make a badminton champion just in a year or two. It takes a number of years before you can really get to the top.
And I guess when you were playing, there was a lot more media coverage then, wasn't there?
Yeah, huge amount of media compared with now. We got large coverage in papers all over New Zealand. I was looking through some of Richard Pearce's scrapbook papers recently from some years back, and it was amazing the coverage that badminton was getting, which it doesn't get now. So okay, we've got to push the sport and get it into the public arena, and we obviously have to do well to do that. The sport has to succeed.
I'd like to say thank you very much for your time. I think you're a champion on and off the court, and it's an inspiration to myself and also to others in Badminton to have people like you involved with the sport, and hopefully these videos will help to educate people about our history and also give them hope for where we can go in the future.
Oh, thank you. Badminton is a great sport, and it's a family sport too, or can be. A lot of families have gone through the sport with mother and father and son, and then grandson or granddaughter playing. So it is a great sport for a family, and of course you can keep playing for a long time too.
That's true.
Yes. Yes, so thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Chief.